Woke up from a coma and found out my wife was pregnant, but I was in a coma for 2 years. My name is Michael, and I don't remember the accident. I don't remember the impact, the crash, or the sound of metal crushing against metal. I don't remember the flashing lights, the voices shouting, or the pain that must have come right before everything went black. All I remember is waking up. It was slow at first, like coming out of a deep sleep, but something felt wrong. My body felt weak. My head was pounding, and when I tried to move, pain shot through every limb like fire. My throat was dry. My mouth tasted like dust. And when I opened my eyes, the bright white ceiling above me made me squint. I wasn't at home. I wasn't in my bed. I was somewhere unfamiliar, and as I turned my head, everything around me felt surreal. The beeping of machines, the smell of antiseptic, the soft hum of something mechanical. I was in a hospital. Panic rose inside me. I tried to sit up, but my arms felt like dead weight. My legs wouldn't move. I forced myself to breathe slow and deep, trying to understand what was happening. Then I heard a gasp from my side, and before I could react, a nurse was rushing out of the room, shouting something I couldn't understand. Moments later, the door burst open again, and a doctor walked in, followed by a woman. Her face was familiar, but different. Older, somehow more tired, but when I saw her eyes, I knew exactly who she was. Emily, my wife. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes, but there was something else in them. Something I couldn't place. Shock. Fear, guilt. I swallowed hard, my throat burning as I tried to speak. How long? My voice was barely a whisper. The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder, his face serious but calm. Michael, you've been in a coma for 2 years. My heart stopped. 2 years. My mind raced. I remembered driving home that night, the blinding headlights, the crash. But 2 years gone just like that, but nothing could have prepared me for what Emily said next. She hesitated, then whispered, Michael, we need to talk. I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Pregnant, that didn't make sense. That wasn't possible. I had been in a coma for 2 years. My mind went blank. My chest tightened. My breath came in short gasps. I tried to sit up again, my body screaming in protest, my head spinning, my pulse hammering against my skull. Emily's hands reached for mine, but I pulled away, my voice hoarse and unsteady. How tears streamed down her face. Michael, please just listen to me. It's not what you think. Not what I think. My vision blurred. Red-hot fury surged through me. I forced myself to stay calm, but my voice came out cold, flat. Then tell me, Emily, because right now, it looks exactly like what I think. The doctor stepped in. Michael, you need to stay calm. Your body is still weak. But I barely heard him. My eyes locked on Emily. Her face twisted in agony. I couldn't move. I couldn't run. I couldn't even escape this nightmare. I was trapped in a body that barely worked, staring at a woman who had just shattered my world. And I knew right then I had to find out the truth. Her words echoed in my mind, but I couldn't process them. I had just woken up from a 2-year coma. My body felt like it didn't even belong to me anymore. And now my wife was telling me she was pregnant. I stared at her, my mouth opening, but no words coming out. My chest tightened. My mind was spinning. Pregnant. The word alone didn't make sense. How was that even possible? The doctor's voice cut through the silence. Michael, I know this is a lot to take in, but right now we need to focus on your recovery. Your body has been through a lot, and I didn't hear the rest. I was still looking at Emily. My wife, the woman I had married, the woman who had sat by my side while I was in this hospital for 2 years. The woman who was now telling me she was carrying a child that couldn't possibly be mine. I tried to sit up, but my arms were too weak. I clenched my jaw, forcing my voice to come out steady. How my throat burned, but I didn't care. How are you pregnant? Emily. She hesitated, her hands shaking as she reached for me. But I pulled away. Every movement felt like fire, but I didn't care. Michael, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. It's not what you think. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Not what I think. Then, tell me. Emily, tell me exactly how my wife ended up pregnant while I was lying in a coma for 2 years. Tears welled in her eyes, but I saw something else there too. Guilt. She knew exactly what this meant. She knew what I was realizing in real time. She had moved on while I was unconscious. She had been with someone else. She had betrayed me in the worst possible way. The doctor cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. Maybe we should give him some time? No. I snapped my voice stronger this time. My entire body was screaming in pain, but my rage was stronger. I want to hear it from her. I want the truth. Emily swallowed hard, and then finally she whispered, "It was your best friend, Daniel." Everything inside me froze. The room, the machines, the beeping of the monitors all faded into nothingness. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would explode. My best friend, Daniel. The man I trusted like a brother. The man who was supposed to be there for me while I was at my weakest. The man who had taken everything from me. I clenched my fists even though they barely moved. My vision blurred with anger and betrayal. I wanted to scream, but my body was too weak to even hold myself up. "Get out," I finally said, my voice shaking. "Both of you. Get out." Emily sobbed, but I didn't care. I didn't want to hear excuses. I didn't want to hear apologies. I wanted her gone. I wanted him gone. I wanted to wake up and realize this was some twisted nightmare, but it wasn't. It was real. And it had only just begun. The door slammed shut behind them, but their presence still lingered like poison in the air. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from pure rage. My mind was racing, replaying every memory, every moment where I had trusted them both. I had been in a coma fighting for my life, while they had been living theirs together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the IVs from my arms and walk out of that hospital and find Daniel. But my body wouldn't let me. I was trapped in a shell of weakness, while the fire inside me grew stronger. A nurse came in adjusting my monitors, her voice gentle. "Michael, you need to rest. I know this is hard." "No, you don't!" I snapped, my voice raw. "You have no idea what it's like to wake up and realize your entire life has been destroyed." She didn't argue. She just nodded, sympathy in her eyes before leaving me alone again. For hours, I lay there, staring at the ceiling. My mind wouldn't stop replaying it over and over again. Emily pregnant with Daniel's child. My so-called best friend, sneaking behind my back while I was unconscious. Did they even feel guilty? Had they even cared? The anger was unbearable. But I forced myself to think clearly. If I let the rage consume me, I would never get my revenge. I needed to be smart. I needed to wait. Days passed and my strength slowly returned. I forced myself through physical therapy, every painful step, every strained movement fueled by one thought: I will not let them win. One evening, as I was sitting up for the first time, Emily walked back into my room, her hands shaking, her eyes red from crying. I didn't speak. I just stared at her, waiting. "Michael, please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never wanted this to happen. I was lost. I was alone. I thought you were never going to wake up." I let out a cold laugh, shaking my head. "So that makes it okay. You didn't even wait for me to die before you moved on. You didn't just cheat, Emily. You had a whole relationship. You had a baby with my best friend." She sobbed, covering her face. I didn't know what to do. I was hurting. I thought I had lost you forever. I leaned forward, my body still weak, but my voice was steady. "And what about Daniel? Was he hurting too? Or was he just waiting for his chance?" She didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. He hadn't just been there for her. He had been waiting for me to be out of the picture. He had seen an opportunity and taken it. I clenched my fists, the fire inside me burning hotter than ever. "Get out, Emily. I'm done with you." She hesitated, then finally turned and walked away. I watched her go, knowing one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment my strength slowly returned. I pushed myself harder than ever through physical therapy. Every step, every painful stretch fueled by one thought: I will make them pay. I spent hours alone in my hospital bed, thinking about everything Ellie and Daniel had done to me. The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating. It was about how easily they had erased me from their lives. How they had taken everything that was mine and built their own little world without even looking back. But they made one mistake. They assumed I wouldn't wake up. One night while the hospital was quiet, I grabbed my phone and started searching. The past 2 years had been a blur to me, but I needed to know exactly what had happened while I was gone. Social media was my first stop, and what I found made my blood boil. There they were, Emily and Daniel, pictures of them together smiling like nothing had ever happened. They weren't even hiding it. Posts about how strong their love was, about how they had overcome tragedy together. Tragedy. That was what they called me being in a coma. I clenched my fists, scrolling through the comments. Friends, family, people I had known for years. Congratulating them. Wishing them happiness. As if I had never existed. But then I saw something that made my heart stop. A wedding photo. Days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment my strength slowly returned. I pushed myself harder than ever through physical therapy. Every step, every painful stretch fueled by one thought: I will make them pay. I spent hours alone in my hospital bed, thinking about everything Ellie and Daniel had done to me. The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating. It was about how easily they had erased me from their lives. How they had taken everything that was mine and built their own little world without even looking back. But they made one mistake. They assumed I wouldn't wake up. One night while the hospital was quiet, I grabbed my phone and started searching. The past 2 years had been a blur to me, but I needed to know exactly what had happened while I was gone. Social media was my first stop, and what I found made my blood boil. There they were, Emily and Daniel, pictures of them together smiling like nothing had ever happened. They weren't even hiding it. Posts about how strong their love was, about how they had overcome tragedy together. Tragedy. That was what they called me being in a coma. I clenched my fists, scrolling through the comments. Friends, family, people I had known for years. Congratulating them. Wishing them happiness. As if I had never existed. But then I saw something that made my heart stop. A wedding photo. Revenge wasn't just about making them suffer, it was about making them feel exactly what I felt. Betrayal, loss, humiliation. They had taken my life and replaced me like I was nothing, so I would do the same to them, but much worse. I spent the next few weeks regaining my strength. Every painful step, every sore muscle, only reminded me why I was doing this. I wasn't just healing. I was preparing. The day I was finally discharged from the hospital, I didn't go home, because I didn't have a home. Emily and Daniel had moved into my house, the one I had bought with my own money. They were living there, with their perfect little life, while I had nowhere to go. That was fine, because I didn't need a home. I needed revenge. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer. I wanted to know exactly what my legal rights were because I knew Emily had probably taken everything while I was unconscious. And I was right. She had filed for divorce while I was in a coma. And since I couldn't contest it, she'd gotten everything. But she made a mistake. She never closed our joint bank account. And that gave me an opening. I drained the account completely, every last penny. I could already imagine the look on her face when she found out. the confusion, the panic. She and Daniel had been living off my money, but now they had nothing. But that was just the beginning. I needed to destroy them from the inside, and I knew exactly how to do it. Secrets ruin people, and I was sure they had plenty. I started with Daniel. His life was an open book on social media, but what people didn't know was that he had a gambling problem. It didn't take much digging to find out that he owed money to some very dangerous people. I made sure those people knew exactly where to find him. Next was Emily. She thought she had the perfect life, but she had no idea that Daniel wasn't as loyal as she believed. I had a contact dig into his phone records. And what I found made me laugh out loud. Daniel had been cheating on her too. The man who had stolen my wife had already moved on to someone else. The best part. He was messaging another woman while Emily was pregnant with his child. I saved everything. The messages, the photos, the proof. And then I waited. Because when I made my move, I wanted it to destroy them completely. Phones started blowing up, call after call, text after text. Michael, what happened to our account? Michael, I need to talk to you. Michael, please answer me. I didn't respond. I just sat back and let the panic sink in. She thought she could take everything from me, but now she had nothing. Daniel wasn't any better. The men he owed money to finally caught up with him. It didn't take much to point them in his direction. And I knew exactly when. It happened because suddenly his car was listed for sale, his expensive watch gone. He was scrambling, trying to come up with the money, but he had no idea how bad things were about to get. Because now it was time for the final blow. I sent the messages, the proof of his cheating, directly to Emily. I didn't say a word, just sent the screenshots and waited. It didn't take long. An hour later, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up but didn't say anything. Michael, please. Emily's voice was shaking. Tell me this isn't real. I finally spoke, my voice cold. You didn't care when you did it to me. So why should I care now? She broke down sobbing. I made a mistake, I know I did. But he told me he loved me. He told me we had something real. I let out a short laugh. And now you know what it feels like to be betrayed. She tried to speak, but I hung up. I didn't need to hear any more excuses, any more lies. Later that night, I drove past my old house just to see the damage. And what I saw nearly made me laugh out loud. Emily was outside, screaming at Daniel, her face red with fury. He was trying to explain himself, but she wasn't listening. She was throwing his things out onto the lawn, yelling so loud the whole neighborhood could hear. And just like that, their perfect little life was over. I rolled down my window just enough to let the cold air hit my face. Watching them self-destruct was the best feeling I had ever experienced. But this wasn't over yet, because I had one final move left to make, and it was going to be the one they never saw coming. Watching them fall apart wasn't enough. I wanted them to lose everything the way I had lost everything, and I still had one last card to play. Emily thought she had taken my life and built something better, but she had no idea what was coming next. See, while she was busy playing house with Daniel, she forgot one thing. Our marriage may have been over, but our legal ties weren't completely cut. She had used my name for loans, for credit cards, for everything. And that gave me the opening I needed. I contacted the bank and started an investigation into fraud, because as far as I was concerned, she had been using my identity while I was unconscious. And that's a crime. It didn't take long before the bank froze all accounts connected to me. And since Emily had tied herself financially to Daniel, and Daniel was already drowning in debt, that meant they had nothing left. No money, no house, no stability. They were done. The last time I saw Emily, she was sitting outside a run-down motel, bags piled up beside her. She looked exhausted, defeated, broken. She saw me watching from my car, and for a moment, I thought she would say something. But then she just looked away, because she knew there was nothing left to say. Daniel wasn't with her. I had no idea where he went, and I didn't care. They had ruined my life, and now I had taken theirs. And the best part, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was free. For the first time in 2 years, I felt peace. No more anger, no more pain, just freedom. Emily and Daniel had built their happiness on my suffering, and now they had nothing left. Emily lost everything. The house, the money, the security. Daniel was hiding from the people he owed money to, and from what I heard, he had skipped town, leaving Emily to deal with the mess alone. I thought I would feel empty after it was all over. But as I walked through the city, feeling the cold breeze on my face, I realized something. I wasn't broken anymore. I had been through hell, but I had come out stronger, and they would have to live with their choices for the rest of their lives. One night I got a message from an unknown number. It was Emily. Michael. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I just want to say, I'm sorry for everything. I stared at the message for a long time before finally typing my response. I forgave you the moment I destroyed you. And with that, I blocked her number forever. Because I wasn't looking back anymore. I was finally moving forward. And this time, nothing would stop me. And that's how I got the ultimate revenge. They thought they could betray me and live happily ever after. But life doesn't work that way. Karma always comes full circle. I walked away from that nightmare stronger than ever while they were left with nothing. But do you think I went too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Let me know in the comments, because I read every single one. And if you love stories like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, the next story is even crazier.